All right. Okay. Let's see. We've got everybody unmuting. Hi. Gosh, it's been forever.
Hi.
I feel like I haven't seen you guys since summer.
Hello, everyone.
Hey. All right. So, um, I don't. Kathy, do you want to lead the discussion, or who wants to be in charge of all the crazy people today?
Oh, I thought that was you.
Okay. I am happy to be in charge of wonderful Maker Camp hosts, or at least lead the discussion today. So, hello, Maker Faire. Hello, Empire State. I hope that you are enjoying another fabulous day of projects and presentations today. I've been watching since 9 a.m. and my brain is like bursting with stuff to bring back to my kids. So I am super excited to be here today. Why don't we take a second and go ahead and introduce ourselves? Who wants to start? Kathy,
Okay.
start it
All
off.
right. I'm Kathy Ceceri. I write books and I give workshops that teach kids STEAM, science, technology, engineering, art, and math with projects that use everyday crafts materials and household items. I did a few sessions for Maker Camp this summer, and I have some coming up. There's a Halloween series of projects coming up, and I'm going to be starting off on Monday with my glowing disembodied hand made out of masking tape, and it has lights and a programmable option. And I also am offering a 5-week build bots course based on my bots book. And that will also be teaching all the various systems of robotics just using everyday materials and a few very simple electronics.
Very cool. I'm just going to go right around in order on the way you are on my screen. So, Andy Forrest, you are up. Can you hear us?
Hi, everyone. Yeah. Hi, my name is Andy, and I lead an organization called Steamlabs. And here, let me just pop that on the screen. And we've been doing a lot of maker-related activities for the past 10 years. That's me as a kid making a suit of armor. This is my youngest kid in a Russian spacesuit. So about 10 years ago, my kids started getting older. I started making maker spaces. So that's the first one in a garage, and we slowly made them bigger and bigger, including more and more kids and finally adults with this 3,000 square foot makerspace, and eventually expanded to science centers and libraries and kept growing from there to include even more people. And as we started getting wider reach, we realized that we needed to go digital and to kind of spread the word and the activities through some online media. And that really fit well when COVID hit. So we started adapting all of our activities for website viewing. This is an activity that we built where you can design your own loom with some pixel art, and that it makes laser cut plans for you that you can cut in your laser cutter at home or get manufactured somewhere at Pinoco or whatever. And then you have a custom loom to weave your own art. And we've also been building AI activities recently. So this is one for kids called AI for Zookeepers, where they train a vision system. So check out our things at our website at steamlabs.ca. And also we have a website, inventor.city, that publishes a lot of AI activities that you can do together with your kids, or if you're an educator, you can use these things as well. So that's me.
Wow, coming with the PowerPoint and everything, man, making us look like slackers. All right, Michael, you're next on the screen for me.
All right, hello. So yeah, Andy's making everyone look like a slacker because my thing is Scrappy Circuits, and I'm looking around and I don't even have an example to show you. But we just got in. It's been a crazy day, but I'm an educator and have been for many years. Taught third grade for a long time, and now I'm an instructional coach. And I've always kind of, similar to what Kathy said, always loved to find ways to turn kids on to making, but to get rid of as many prerequisites as possible. And that's kind of the ethos of Scrappy Circuits. It's a whole invention learning platform that's free online. So you can go to scrappycircuits.com and see everything. And it's basically made out of scraps, stuff from the dollar store. So you can go to the dollar store, you can buy a few things, take them apart, learn how they work, put them back together, and really become an inventor or learn those foundational skills to becoming an inventor. So that's the whole, that's my whole kind of passion right now is Scrappy Circuits. And I led a bunch of, with my co-creator, Chris Connors, we led a bunch of sessions over the summer with Make, and it was a lot of fun. And there's a book around the corner too. So if you stay tuned to scrappycircuits.com, you'll know when that book's out and a Kickstarter and everything. So.
Wow. That is, I know I love Scrappy Circuits. They're great for the maker space. I have your guide out all the time. And both my girls love it too.
Awesome.
We're going to hold on Kelsey for just a moment till Matt can jump in. Or do you want to go now? You want to go?
I'll say hi, and then we'll do a better introduction in a second. Hi, everybody. My name is Kelsey Derringer, and I'm one of the co-owners of CodeJoy. We are an online teaching and education company, and we teach coding, robotics, and engineering all online. We did a bunch of really fun classes for Family Maker Camp this summer. And our the thing that we really try to do is we have a studio. We're actually transitioning. We just finished a class. So I came upstairs from the studio to join our panel, and we'll be able to join from the studio in just a little bit. But in our classes, we make cardboard robots using microbits and hummingbirds and Arduinos and things like that. And then what we do during the class is we have kids code our robots here in our studio. From anywhere in the world, kids can control our robots. And so we have classes that we do that there's some sort of overarching story or theme. So what we did yesterday, what we actually debuted at Empire State Maker Faire was we made this awesome haunted house. So we strapped a cell phone onto a little robot with wheels, and then that little robot could go through this miniature haunted house that we had created. And during the class, the kids programmed the scary things in the haunted house. And that was just a blast yesterday. So just a big thanks again to Empire State Maker Faire for having us and letting us debut that for you guys, because that was really, really cool.
That is awesome. I watched that yesterday, and that was like, wow, that was so much fun. And I mean, what exciting projects for kids. Like, you can't go wrong with that. So great work. So I'll introduce myself while we're waiting for Matt. My name is Sandy Roberts. I am a STEM educator from New Jersey. So I've been teaching kids for 13 years and longer than that if you count when I taught college level classes. And my business is Kaleidoscope Enrichment. So I do a lot of STEM programming for schools and libraries, homeschool groups. I am the kind of person that shows up at the farmer's market with the 3D printer. So I have a lot of fun sharing making and STEM education pretty much anywhere that they'll give me a 6-foot table. I'm also the author of the Big Book of Maker Camp projects. So that's got over 100 projects in it, everything from cooking to crafting to coding to citizen science. So it's a little bit of everything for everyone. And I am the Makerspace coordinator for the Warren County Library System. That's my official day job. So I coordinate STEM and maker activities for 4 branches in our library system. Over the last 2.5 years, have opened our first free public makerspace to the community. That is my 3rd makerspace. So I think Andy's still blowing me out of the water, but I'm trying to catch up. And obviously, I am one of the Maker Camp hosts. So when everything went crazy in March and April, I was very lucky to get to jump on this team and very quickly have to learn how to do video programs. I know some of you already had that under your belt. That was all new for me. And it's been really exciting to get to learn. Like Kathy, I actually do have a Halloween project coming up next week on Thursday, the 22nd. We'll be learning about calaveras, the sugar skulls associated with Day of the Dead, learning how to make them. We're going to be doing a little light up electronics project based on them, learning the history, the culture, because it's just fascinating. And I'm very lucky to have some amazing folks in my life that have taught me, and I'm excited to get to pass some of that on. And then I also have Move and Groove with Makey through Maker Camp coming up in November. So hopefully people will come and have fun with me, and we'll do some coding and some crafting and make some music. So that's our team here. And of course we had, I think there were up to 50 hosts, you know, some people doing one project, some people doing many projects. We had a fantastic team of volunteers this summer and fall, and continuing now into the winter. bringing free projects to our families. So if you want to check out any of that content, I do believe all those videos are on makercamp.com. So you can go and see all the work that we've done, get an idea, and then of course, reach out to us to do more. All right, so let's kind of jump into some of the challenges we all faced, right? I figured let's start with, equipment and your transition to doing online. I know some of you were already ready. You were already experts. Not all of us were. So who wants to kind of share what that was like, making that change?
I'll go. I don't have a great answer though, because for me, and I think if you watched, we did weekly sessions over the summer, there was like an equipment evolution that happened. Like I had nice lights in my basement, my workshop, but then my computer was not syncing perfectly with the lights, where I was getting that like TV scroll line. So then every week it was like a little tweak, trying to get ahead of everything. But similar to kind of the projects being scrappy circuits, like I didn't, everything's a little scrappy. So I didn't like go out and, max out a few credit cards for equipment. I kept things as simple as possible. Found like a really nice webcam that was around $30 that worked great. And like a $60 blue microphone. Hopefully it doesn't get too loud as I bring it in. But, kept it nice, kept it simple. I think one of the big important things with lights is not as much that you buy expensive lights, but that they're all color temperature matched. So you kind of pick a color temperature, stick with it, and then you can find cheap bulbs with that temperature, but that they're all matched. So that was kind of my narrative of the summer, trying to figure out my equipment situation.
I was very lucky. I have lots of daylight windows. So as long as I'm filming during the day, I've got pretty decent light, because otherwise I have one giant fluorescent in here, which would not look very good. Kathy, I know you transformed a whole room in your house to be able to do video.
Yeah, so I have two grown kids that their rooms were sitting there filled with stuff they haven't moved out yet. And I actually took over both rooms. One became my sewing room, where I was making masks all summer or spring. And the other one became my video studio. And I actually have too much light. So I have, in front of me and to the side of me is all windows. And I had a morning session yesterday, and I actually had to hang like sheets up over the windows because you can see I'm a little overexposed on one side, but other than boarding up the windows, there's not too much I can do there. But yeah, all the stuff, and I had two oldish webcams. So I've got one on my computer, which I can't actually reach the keyboard, so I can't chat with people. And the other one's hanging from a kind of adjustable thing that's actually for cell phones, but that's become my document camera. And because of your session about OBS, I learned how to use that from the earlier Maker Faire in the spring. And so I use that to record a whole bunch of pre-recorded workshops that libraries were showing to their patrons on Facebook and things like that. So that was really helpful. And like everybody, I hopefully upgraded my presentation over the summer to where you can see me and hear me and see what's going on. So it's a process.
It really is. It's a challenge sometimes to kind of reuse, tech that you have on hand. I mean, I'm using an old video camera from my college days, and it's literally a little handheld cam, and it's working as my document cam. You make it work, right? That's what we do. Kelsey, I saw that you just kind of moved to your studio. Tell us a little bit about your space.
Yeah, we're a little bit unique in that we are a company that's completely designed to teach online. So I'm standing outside currently because our studio, we've built an entire studio. Last year we started building this, and our studio is designed to fit inside of a 2-car garage. And so this space right here, we've actually, as I said, we just finished a class. So that rolling table back there is our robot haunted house that we had to roll out for this other class that we just finished teaching. This whole studio is like Maker hard mode. Man, it's just makered up. But we've got, if I tilt forward, you can look up, and we have a grid system that we've hung from the ceiling so that we can hang lights and keep all the cords off the floor, because there's nothing worse than tripping over cords. But then if I come over here, avoiding lights, behind me, you can see Matt getting ready to join back there. That is our actual set. So we run this out of, like, this is a whole set that we built to run classes out of. So this is what we were designed for. So you were talking about lights and stuff. We have, if I tilt up, you can see there's some professional grade, studio lighting here. When we look at the cameras we are using, professional grade video cameras there, like, studio stuff. And then we're set up with our set over here. And then with our sort of like tech station, so that Matt can be managing stuff in the background. This is what that looks like as he's, the monitors are all mirrored. So we've got multiple monitors and he can see what I can see and, be managing stuff in the background. So yeah, our situation's a little bit different from a lot of other educators because this is what we are designed for, right? But we're also designed so that, other folks can come in and teach from here. So we just had this phenomenal puppeteer in here and you can see this like haunted house that he was working on. We're set up to teach coding and robotics classes, but also do other really cool classes from this space as well. It's designed to be flexible like that. But, as we're talking about like going to transitioning to online, it's like that on the one hand, that's what we're designed to do. But on the other hand, a lot of learners aren't used to learning the stuff that we teach online. The learners are not used to doing coding. They're used to doing coding online, but not via video, right? And so like the kind of teaching, what we found that was really helpful when helping support learners to do the kind of learning we were wanting them to do was we kind of had to teach them how to play. And that's something I would recommend for all educators transitioning to online learning. What do you want participation to look like? Is participation raising your hand? Because raising your hand in the traditional sense
doesn't work.
Right. I can't see that. So when we have kids raise their hand, we have them put their hand in front of the camera and do this because I can see that on Zoom, right? And even like, when are you asking kids to talk? When are you asking them to participate in the chat? What does participation look like? If you're doing a maker activity, like a lot of you folks were doing, participation might look like this. It might look like them looking down at their desk, concentrating on the string or the circuit or whatever it was. So as we've been innovating with online teaching, our big hope is that we are going to continue to teach people how to learn online as well.
Yeah. I mean, and, I think it's great because I know over the summer you did host a number of other makers in your space, safely, of course, following safety guidelines. And I mean, what a fantastic setup. It was like you were ready to go. And thank goodness that we had someone like you ready to go. Andy, tell us, I know that you have, like you said, you were already moving to virtual. How has this changed what you were doing?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So just echoing what Kelsey was saying about like figuring out new ways to encourage the kids to be creative and participatory. One of our most successful classes, we actually started doing a D&D makers online camp because we're used to having a makerspace full of equipment that we can inspire kids about and just get them messing around with this stuff and then show them what the laser cutter can do and then they can riff off of that. But we didn't have that anymore. So we needed some other creative starting point. So we actually used D&D so that they start with just being creative and expressing themselves. And then we have them make their magic items, make their tools, and eventually start making all of the different things that go into the storytelling of the game as they need it. Because that's one of our core philosophy pieces, is that everything we want the kids doing is that they're making meaningful choices that are relevant to whatever they're doing. So we started with that. And also to echo the equipment kind of thing, we have a much less sophisticated setup than you, Kelsey, but there's some simple things too. Like I've got this switcher here, which is fantastic. It's pretty cheap and you can put all these different video source inputs on it. So I have a document camera, obviously, that I can click on and switch. I can switch back to my main camera and just having, there's some nice hardware bits that we figured out that work. message me, message the other panelists. If you're trying to set up this stuff, I'm sure we all have hardware recommendations that we can tell you about what for setting up things. And we have there's cheaper light solutions that you can get on Amazon and such too, and than all the super expensive stuff.
I think what's really important to note is that wherever you are, budget-wise, space-wise, experience-wise, you can get online. You can, make an educational experience because, and this is kind of a perfect transition, it's not just about the equipment, right? It's about you as an educator. So, I feel like Kathy added a great note to the email about the difference between like your amount of preparation beforehand, but then addressing like that in the moment discussion and creation and ideation. And that is such an important part of maker education. I want to know if any of you had some experience or had some insights on how you balanced preparing and getting content across, but also connecting in real ways with your students and making it interesting, especially when you're talking to a camera and maybe not all of us getting to interact directly with students. Anyone want to have some thoughts?
Sure, I can jump in first this time. so we love to start kids in the middle. So we have something prepared that is successful immediately. So we're doing a laser cutting thing, then it might be, okay, let's make a musical instrument. Here's some template. Here's a drum that just works. So now show you how the programs work with a thing that works. But then tell them, but you have to make your own riff on this. You're not going to get to laser cut your project until you've got something that you've come up with, you've designed. And then so we're forcing them to innovate, to do something different. And then that makes and to make them more comfortable in that, we constantly try and point out failures of our own. And also when we don't know how to do something, we say, that's great, I get to learn something along with you. And just having a language around innovation and around that things aren't just step by step to execute a project, it's figuring out stuff as we go. That's how we introduce that balance into the things that we do.
And I know you've got some great resources on your website about how to kind of direct that. And I remember if people want to go back and watch, I think it was Virtually Maker Faire that you talked a lot about kind of your design process and your innovation process and how you lead kids through that, because it's important. I think that's the important preparation, right? To have that really solid in your mind. Who else has something that they'd like to share?
I wasn't the one that came up with that question, but it is a very good question. And yeah, so I actually was very uncomfortable at the start with being in front of a camera. And I'm also not really good with tech. So I have, and I could find the picture and share it, but I don't have a teleprompter app, which a lot of people have. I have a 8.5 by 14 printed piece of paper, leaning against a box next to my screen with the main points that I want to say, because I'm so afraid I'm going to forget what I'm saying and just get too nervous in front of the camera. I feel like I've gotten a lot better about that now, but that was a real hurdle at the beginning. And I'm sure a lot of classroom teachers were going through the same kind of thing at the beginning. And I didn't teach a lot of Maker Camp sessions, but I did a lot with libraries, and I know we've all talked about this. It's very different when the participants are visible and you can call on people and you can see, they can wave their hands or they can show you their, paper walking robot dog that they're making, and you can give them some advice about why it's not working. But when they don't want to turn their cameras on, that's a whole other level of still being able to be engaging. And I'm still working on that. So if anybody's got any tips on how to teach you, to not being able to see anybody and make that still, engaging, that is really tough.
I was, that is tough because I'm so used to being with kids and being able to have that interaction. And I think I got very lucky because my first Maker Camp session, I mentioned this last night at the Maker Meetup, I had everything recorded. It was all done. It was just supposed to stream out because I wasn't comfortable being on camera live either. It was my first time being on camera, still not really comfortable with it. But it didn't work. Like it didn't stream when it was supposed to stream. And so I was kind of online with the Maker Camp team, and they just like threw me to live. And I'm like, all right, I have my bin of stuff and we're just going to do it on like the really crappy camera that was on my laptop. So I feel like sometimes getting thrown into cold water just, wakes you up. And so that was the most terrifying experience of my life. But it was also probably one of the best because it got me over all the fear. Like you just couldn't be afraid at that point. You just have to jump right in. And I feel like that was the rest of the summer was like, I'm just going to jump right in and figure it out as I go, and so that made it for me, because I had to start with, just sharing stuff on the fly. I feel like that's just become what I do now. Like I'm constantly, I make mistakes. I talk about the mistakes I make, how I'm going to try and fix them. I've had a couple of projects go horribly wrong for Maker Camp and had to fix them on the fly with the kids and with those watching. And it's been a tremendous experience for me because I feel like that's such an important part of making, is that things are going to go wrong. They're not going to go as planned. And you roll with it and you keep persevering.
And on that note of preparedness versus like preparing in advance, which we're in our studio now, by the way. Hooray. And this is Matt.
Yay, it looks great. Welcome back.
Yeah. One of the things that we try to do when we prepare, like our classes are a little bit different because most of the time we don't know who's coming to our classes. They're sort of like sign up single serving size. We don't often get to see the same kids for multiple sessions, although we love that when we're hired to do that. We got to do that for the Berkeley Girls in Engineering Camp this summer, which was really cool. But a lot of times our classes are more drop-in. And so we do kind of create a script, and the script is not word for word anything, but it's like, okay, we're going to do this, and then we're going to switch to this camera so that we can show something here. And then, and the more we run a class, because we'll get to usually run it multiple times, sort of the more comfortable, you get with it. But I loved, Kathy was saying she's got a piece of paper on the side, like reminding her what to do when. I have the same thing. I have a monitor over here where it's like, okay, we're gonna, now's the point where we do that.
We have tape with little friendly reminders to slow down.
Number one tip if you're gonna do this, right?
Yeah, like use that. You exist in a square, but you can put whatever you want over here to help remind you of things. But I think too, just to really focus on that student experience, teaching online is just slower. You've just got to slow down with it. You've got to build silence into it, and you've got to, with at the beginning, it was so interesting. In March, it was like the Wild West. Kids were like unmuting all the time, and they were just like, "I've got something to say from Los Angeles," whatever it was. And then they kind of like learned. You could see when learning and in school, Zooming and stuff, and became more prominent because kids figured it out. I'm supposed to be muted. You talk, I listen. And like, sometimes that's not what we want, so you've got to build in, okay, I'm open for questions. We're going to pause here. We're going to slow it all down. Put your questions in the chat. I need your questions. Right. So like, when we're preparing, we'll put in the script, like 5 minutes for questions, or this is where we're going to be silent. And so we're really trying to think about that student experience too, of like, when is the climax of the show? When is the climax of the class? What's the most exciting thing where we're the busiest and there's music and oh yeah. But then where's like the moment for us and for kids, like trying to build that in. So we have like a flow of it, but then we riff on the moment. I remember talking to an educator early on where she was like scared of saying and I was like, no, like that's gonna happen. Yeah. And like you'll get better at it so that you kind of learn to riff over your thing. You can hear it even in like, famous people like, former President Obama. You can hear it, like he got better at not saying the more he went on. Like the more you're on camera, the better you get at it. So like jump in, the water's weird.
That's so true.
Get in here.
And what you mentioned about like thinking about the flow of your class, I think many of us as educators do that naturally. And it was just a matter of like, how do we now transform that into a digital learning space and flow with the kids? Because the kids, their behavior, like you said, has absolutely changed. I've seen, some kids really have adapted to the digital learning experience. And it's interesting. Mike, I know you work, in the school system. What have been your experiences?
So I was a classroom teacher for about 11 years, and I kind of transitioned out, and now I'm an instructional coach. But I think those skills have been very valuable because I've finished teaching a lesson and I've looked up at the clock and realized, oh, I have 15 minutes until gym. Like, I need to still be the star of this show for 15 more minutes, and I have nothing to say. So I kind of honed as one of my friends says, spilling yarn, just like almost just chatting and filling space. And as far as like preparedness versus like spontaneity, it was really nice because I had a co-host, Chris Connors. So at first we kind of planned, and we were very planned, and we were like almost parallel with our builds, and we would just talk and riff on each other. And then we kind of just picked a topic and kind of each went our separate ways. And it was a more organic conversation because he was showing me things for the first time. I was showing him things for the first time. And I enjoyed that too, because, it was great in the sense that like my reactions are real, and we weren't just like hitting points on the script and moving along. But then at the same time, things went, builds would take a long time. Like, I don't think those were really tight shows. So we kind of, I think every week we really had a different philosophy. And it was all about a balance of all those two things. Like, I think if we kind of kept going with things, we would really maybe tighten things up a little more, have more bullet pointed notes that we want to hit, and maybe some time frames with those. But also not have parallel builds, and just kind of like, have an almost a conversation between the two of us where others are watching.
Yeah, and having a co-host, I mean, some of you have had that opportunity, and having that kind of real life interaction is so valuable. I mean, I have not had that experience. I know some of us have, some of us haven't.
You did that light up paper with me, remember?
Yes, that's right. That was fun. That was,
yes.
Even though it was virtual, at
right.
least we could kind of interact.
Do the back and forth, and yeah.
And that's, I feel like, a tip. That's one of the things I really kind of want to work on going forward is, finding some more people to build with and create with, So what just want to remind folks, we are happy to take any questions. So if you have anything that you are trying to figure out about hosting camps online or hosting clubs online, I know a lot of us are doing clubs. We might have Girl Scout, 4-H, things like that. Please feel free to ask. If you have questions about doing STEM at home or maker projects at home, that's something I would love to talk about. And Andy, I know you do a lot of maker projects and STEM at home with your kids because you've got a big family. Maybe you want to share some tips.
Sure. Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, so I find the things that work well at home, it's nice as a smaller group, obviously, than a big class full of kids. So I really try and just follow their interests and just build on that. I've got kids of very different ages, so try and do things that are appropriate for each of them. So here's something I'm working on with my son right now. This is is it a good stuffy to cuddle with at bedtime controller? And it's got a scan of his hand. It can go thumbs down and it can go thumbs up. And then we're connecting it up to AI camera so that it can recognize his stuffed animals. So I just try and find things that are on there, out there already, and just build on them. Like Google's Teachable Machine website is what we're building this out of. And he can understand these things. He's 6. My youngest son is 6, and he can understand how to train these things. And there's so many amazing resources online that I just try and look for things that can connect to what he's interested in at the moment. And same with the older kids, with the teenagers, and do that with them.
Wow. So who else has some tips for parents or club coordinators out there of how they can foster these experiences themselves?
It's tough. And I don't know if you saw, my daughter has gotten really smart. She's 6'2", Andy. She knows that anytime she asks me a question when I'm on the computer, the answer is yes. So she just came in. She was like, "Can I get some ice cream?" Because she knows it's going to be a yes. So that's kind of how I manage, balancing family and these experiences, just saying yes to everything. I don't know if that's good, but it makes the conversations quick. but and we talked about co-hosts too. Like there were times when, my wife's a teacher. She does wedding planning too. So it was times where I was in my workshop and my daughter was hanging around. We only have one. And, she just like wandered into frame. And then all of a sudden she sat on my lap and she was kind of my co-host for a section of the Scrappy Circuits talk. So I think part of it, and I think everyone kind of has gone through this evolution, is, there's professionalism and then there's reality. And I think everyone found their balance between, we have kids, we're not going to lock them in a closet for 45 minutes or an hour. And everyone, I think, found that balance and also saw that balance in other people and appreciated, because, many of us have families and we're balancing talking to a computer with our family and so on.
Yeah, and balance is what it's all about. Balance is what it's all about right now. Kelsey,
I think there's an opportunity to use that really, because when we were doing the club with Berkeley, when we got to see the same kids over and over again, you were asking, how can you facilitate and foster a sense of community when you're doing online learning? Pet day. We had the kids, if they had a pet, bring their pet on screen and show them. So we had 120 middle school girls on a Zoom call for 3 hours a day, 5 days a week for 5 weeks. It was amazing. It was insane, but it was amazing. But like we could go through and we could spotlight the different kids holding their like cat or their bunny or their hamster or their little sister or their like stuffed animal or whatever it was, or their drawing of a Pikachu, like whatever they brought for pet day that day. Our fellow maker was just talking about, his daughter being on screen, like, yeah, but when we're talking about fostering a sense of community, like, don't try to shut out the space that you're in. How can you embrace it and be like, it's bring your pet to work day, or it's we're all learning from our shower day, or it's like go on a scavenger hunt and find me a can of beans. And like, you got to like get them up out of their chair and get them like, having fun too. So like today we're exploring code that is a forever loop. And so I want you to go find something that symbolizes forever to you and bring it, show it, but like get up out of your seat, go do something. We would do dance parties too in that one, which was really fun. We'd play songs and we'd encourage the girls to get up out of their chairs and dance. And then we'd spotlight anybody who was dancing. So it was like, they were like the featured kid on the show for a second, and they got to show all their friends and just fun ways to foster community like that.
Yeah, but I mean, getting kids moving. I mean, like I love to have kids because I do a lot of upcycled maker club stuff. And I'm like, hey, go find whatever you can to make, go find every piece of string you can find, in your house. But like getting kids moving makes it a lot more fun. They're not staring at a screen, the whole time. Kathy, I know you're doing a lot of work with homeschoolers right now. You have a DIY homeschool group. What are some of the experiences you're hearing from the community there?
Well, I'm mostly talking to parents about how to file paperwork, so I'm not sure that's totally. I live in New York State. There's a little paperwork hurdle that you have to get over to be all official, and so pretty much all of September I was just holding people's hands and telling them it is possible to do it. Just something about doing science at home. I did homeschool my kids K through 12. And I didn't do a lot of science. Well, I mean, I did a normal amount of science. We did a lot of visiting science museums and whatnot when they were younger. And then when the youngest one was middle school and the oldest one was just starting high school age grade, they asked to do chemistry. And I actually found a book of how to do a whole high school chemistry course with everyday stuff, with plastic cups and plastic spoons, and not having to have glassware and not having to have all the stuff. And I because I am a journalist, I was blogging for Wired and various sites. I was able to interview the chemistry teacher who wrote this book and get some more background on it. And really, from that time on, I did a whole year of science at home with everyday stuff. I mean, we were making plasma in the microwave. You cut a grape in half and put it on a plate and put it in your microwave and you get sparks. You may not, I shouldn't, you have to be careful, but you put a glass over it and you get a Jacob's ladder effect in your microwave. That's in my Geek Mom book. But
I have that book.
oh, cool. So, you can do everything from, simple paper inventions kind of science to, nuclear science in your home. And you don't have to have a science background to do it if you are willing to do the research and, draw on the experts and all that. So that at least I was comfortable doing. And that's kind of the I'm sharing articles and things in that DIY homeschool Facebook group, just trying to get people to understand you don't have to buy a curriculum. You don't have to, have even a online course if that's not something that's working for you, that you can do this stuff at home.
Yeah, I think it's important to remind everybody's a maker. Everybody can be a scientist. We're all curious people. We've got about 5 minutes left. So if you've got questions, now's the time to ask them. Let me give 1 minute to each of us because I want to ask, what's next? What's your future looking like? What are you planning to do? Who wants to start?
I'll go if that's if there's an opening there. So I ran out during a break and I got my Scrappy Circuits stuff. So Scrappy Circuits is basically the idea of taking apart an LED tea light and using those parts. And I got really into the switches that make up Scrappy Circuits. So you kind of get your battery brick and then, your action brick, your LED or whatever. So I'm really kind of exploring that idea because those Scrappy switches are great because they work with Makey and microbit and all these other elements that are really popular boards. So kind of, I'm going to keep exploring and writing on that and some Scrappy sensors and Scrappy switches. So that's what's next for me.
Who else?
I did want to interrupt too. Kathy, do you know the name of that book? It sounds amazing.
Which Geek Mom?
You said you used like a chemistry book to instruct your kids.
I think it was The Joy of Chemistry. I'm not even sure it's still in print. My kids are old. But I have a whole bunch of really old blogs from Blogspot, so look up homechemistry.blogspot.com and you'll find all my old blogs and all that stuff is in there. I am trying to pull those articles off and because that was our lab reports was putting the blog posts on there. So I'm trying to pull that stuff off and make it more updated, but all that stuff is still sitting there somewhere in the cobwebby parts of the internet.
Awesome.
So do you want to share what's up next for you, Kathy?
So I'm like I said, getting prepared for that Build Bots class that I'm looking forward to doing for Maker Camp. That starts October 28th, and there's still time to sign up for that. I also write tutorials for Adafruit, and so I'm hoping to do more of those. I saw that the new microbit is coming out that has a microphone and a speaker, which is one of the things that I like about the Circuit Playground Express, which is what I used on this project, was that it's very similar to a microbit. It's got a lot more sensors and it's got that, that microphone and speaker is really powerful. So I'm glad that microbit's getting that because I know that's a platform that a lot of people are familiar with. So I'm hoping to get my hands on one of those and start doing some more projects for Adafruit.
Nice. Kelsey and Matt, what's next for you?
Well, we are really excited to be doing Robot Haunted House a few more times this month. And I'm actually going to go to our website really quick to show you. We've got some great student classes coming up. So you can see like haunted houses here and people can register for that for free. All of these student classes are free for people, for kids and families to join. So if you're a kid or a family and you want to join us for one of our upcoming Robot Haunted House ones, you certainly can. Or if you're an organization, you can have us come do this for your organization as well. So we've got Robot Haunted House because 'tis the season, doing that 5 times the last week in October. In November, we're doing Robot Mini Golf, where we talk about some social justice issues and we play mini golf, which is really cool. We've got
mashup, I would expect.
Yes. We've got Robot Memories coming up in December and then Robot DJ in January. So check out some of our student classes coming up. But then also We also do classes for teachers. So if you're wondering how I'm doing this split screen situation right here, we do a class called Multi-Camera Virtual Teaching with OBS. And that is for, open to any teacher, any grown-up with a laptop anywhere. And you can join us virtually, and we'll teach you how to do this. We'll teach you how to do this, right? We'll teach you how to switch cameras like we do really seamlessly, so that you can teach really nicely and easily online, and so that your students can see and hear and experience what you hope that they do. So that all is on our website, codejoyeducation.com, if you want to check it out. Thanks.
That sounds amazing. Anyone who's looking to YouTube, more and build out their educational content that way, that's a great course for them to take. Yeah. What about you, Andy?
Oh, thanks. Yeah, so we're preparing for another round of our D&D Makers Camp. So check out our website, steamlabs.ca, and join our mail list. We'll announce when that's ready for registration. And so kids, they play D&D, and then they design their own magic items using digital fabrication software. And then we laser cut and 3D print, send it out, and you activate it with LEDs and microcontrollers and things like that. And then we're also creating more of these AI workshops, and those are all going to be released open source for educators to use and for parents to use. So stay tuned to our mail list for more of those too, because we have activities like a class of 30 can pretend to be a neural network together to predict really good pie recipes, and predicting the fossil fuel forecast for the day. Things that are interesting and relevant to kids' lives, and that they can learn about how AI works and how data feeds them, and the social implications of what AI means when it's making decisions for you. So sign up for our mail list to find out about more of that too.
Yeah, I mean, making those real world connections, especially right now, I feel like we're all very aware of things that are going on. That is so important. So I think that's amazing. As for me, obviously, I'm doing more maker camps. So we've got our fun Halloween project coming up next week on the 22nd, a little bit of cooking chemistry and culture. And then my Makey class in November, which is a 4-week class. Sign up for 1 week, sign up for the whole thing. That's going to be really fun. I love mashing together like the science of sound and the art of music and the art of coding. So, and then I am developing that. We'll be offering a microbit course in probably December, January. So trying to figure out how to get that all onto the calendar, but I'm curious about the new microbit too. I got to get my hands on one of those. Always exciting when new tech is coming out. And then locally, and actually, well, now nothing is local anymore, right? Nothing's local anymore. I'm doing a lot of take and make kits for science programs. So I'm teaching a lot of homeschoolers, a lot of physics, a lot of STEM programming, and just providing materials, because in the area that I'm in, and again, we could do a whole nother hour on this, but we have a lot of students that don't have solid web connections, that don't have access to materials, that don't have the finances. I do have students that are living out of cars right now. It's a tough time for folks. So finding ways to make sure that we're giving them those engaging experiences and making sure that they're part of our maker community and our STEM community is a big part of the work right now. And making sure that we're providing equity so that every child can learn. So that's exciting. That's kind of one of my new focuses right now. Any questions? Last chance for questions, folks. I think we're just about done on time, right? Any last thoughts? Any last questions? Well, I just want to say thank you to all of you for participating today and for sharing your wisdom and your thoughts and your amazing projects this weekend. It has been such an honor and a privilege to get to meet all of you through this crazy experience, and to learn from every one of you. All right. I think, unless anyone else has any parting thoughts.
Just want to say thank you to Empire State Maker Faire and all the people that work so hard to put that together.
Oh yeah.
We're so happy that we're still able to do the kind of stuff we like to do, even if we're not together in person.
This is so true. Such an amazing production team making all this happen. Like, it's all happening so seamlessly. You don't think about it, but you want to talk about having some technology to really make learning happen. All right.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Sandy, for being the spearhead of this, and Empire State Maker Faire too for working behind the scenes. It's been great.
And thanks to everybody coming out and being part of this virtual experience.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, thanks everybody out there on YouTube and here on Zoom. And you guys are such fabulous makers. Like we're just pleased as punch to be in good company. So
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks
you so
everyone.
much. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.